now that you've just seen how to clamp all your repairs, you'll find out there's always going to be gaps and holes that you have to fill up and then color it and then put a finish on it. So what I'm going to show you is 3 ways to do these fillers and 3 different ways to color on this old chair I bought at Salvation Army. What I'm going to do is I've already cut holes in the arms, and we're going to fill them with 3 different kinds of fillers. First one I'm going to do is Bondo. Bondo is kind of the classical way that the old guys have been doing filling and coloring for years. All right, I'm going to fill this with Bondo, and I use this paper that painters use for masking areas. It's got adhesive strips on it. Just use a pointed dowel to pick up the Bondo. Okay. Okay, I'm going to just poke it in there. Make sure you mount it high and try to prevent voids. If you're doing this on a piece that you're making, fill it before it's finished and don't do the coloring until after you've finished the piece. The coloring is for finished surfaces. This will harden quick enough and I can scrape it off. I've already prepared one area with Bondo and smoothed it off so I can demonstrate the coloring. But I do want to demonstrate how to smooth this off. I like to work with it before it gets really hard. I like to smooth it off while it's still flexible. If you want to, you can wait for it to harden. I just like to do it this way. If you're going to cut it off and smooth it when it's still flexible, you've got to shear it off like at an angle like that. Don't try to push your chisel right into it. Looked like I probably pulled some of that off that time. I didn't wait long enough. But I've got this one already ready, so I want to show you how to do it. I sanded lightly with a little bit of 320 paper, and now it's flat. It's really important that you get it dead flat. I used a little piece of wood with the paper on it so that I had a flat surface and sanded it. I'm going to color this with pigments and shellac. Before you start to do anything with this filled area, you need to seal it with shellac. Just take a little bit of paper, and this is half-pound cut garnet shellac. This little bottle has a little slit cut in the side so it will shake out drops all the time. Just wipe on just a little shellac to seal it. I always use alcohol with the shellac that has no methyl alcohol in it. This is from Wood Finishers Depot, but you can buy it at the liquor store as 190 proof alcohol, which is what I'm going to do, is it's too hard to get this stuff anymore. Okay, this thing is ready to to color. And I'm going to use Pigment Powders. These are available from Wood Finisher Supply in Kennesaw. Old Masters Touchup Powder or Guardsman Pigment Powder. I always start with gold. Make your first coat gold. I keep my brush suspended in alcohol before I'm ready to go and just dry it off a little bit. And I use these 1-ounce cups. You can get them at Walmart. They're fantastic. They cost a few pennies a piece. Shake a little shellac in it. Just a little bit. And you're going to dip your brush in the gold. Get your brush wet with shellac. It's been soaking in alcohol, and now it's in the half-pound cut shellac. Just touch it to the pigment. Mix it up. Mix it up on the side of the container. And then just touch it up. I'm just trying to stay in the lines and just paint the gold on there. And I'll just let that dry for a couple seconds. It's important when you do these coloring, especially with these pigments, it's absolutely critical that you do it in layers and you seal off each layer before you do the next one. Otherwise they get very opaque and ugly. I do the sealing with this Konig spray. It's a special repair lacquer, and you just need a puff of it to seal it. The beauty of this stuff is it doesn't leave a halo when you spray it on like any other lacquer would. It's just made for touch-up areas. So it comes in gloss, silk gloss, and flat. You have to order it out of New York. I don't think it's for sale anywhere around here. I'm going to seal what I've just done. Just a couple puffs. It dries very quickly. The next thing to do is try to pick out some colors that are going to match this surface. You can usually match any wood with burnt umber, burnt sienna, raw sienna, and raw umber. Those four will usually match almost any wood. I've got some raw sienna here and burnt umber, and I'm going to kind of mix them up with my brush and try to add layers until I get the color right. Same procedure. You put a little shellac in here. And get the brush full of shellac, and then I'm going to dip both colors in here and mix them on the edge of my cup till I think I can get the right shade. It's a little bit too red. That's pretty close. That's the first layer. guess I'll wash my brush out a little bit with some alcohol. Now this shellac obviously dries very quickly. I think that's dry enough. I might let it dry a little more if I were not filming right now, but seal it. And as soon as that's dry, we can try to get a little more brown in here, a little more burnt umber. This little bottle is really handy. You just cut a little slit in the rubber stopper, and you never have to worry about it not coming out.
Where did you find that little bottle?
Somebody gave it to me. I save little bottles from the grocery store. You don't have very long to wait with these pigments. You have to work pretty quickly with them. I'm going to put a little sealer on that when it dries. By the way, the brush, I think the brush is pretty important. This is a squirrel hair brush. Just look up online for squirrel hair brushes with a pointed end. The guy that taught me how to do this was very proud of having found these. You notice that there's a couple of light spots there. I put too much on it, and that's what you get, are those light spots. So you have to touch that up later. As soon as this dries, I'm going to seal it off. You kind of creep up on the color, and when you get close, you can add some darker areas or some graining, and that really makes a huge difference at the end. You can see different shades in the wood here. I'm getting pretty close. This particular method is the most difficult to learn, and it takes the most time. But sometimes you have to do it, especially if you're working with carvings or something like that, where you need a brush. I'll show you these other two methods in a minute. Okay, I'm going to try a little more of this brown. I hope it's not too red. I try to keep the point on the brush. And I will let that dry a little bit. While I'm letting that dry, let me go over and do a little fill over here. Instead of Bondo, I was going to use Minwax wood filler. This stuff is great. After learning this other procedure, I find this is a whole lot easier, and the method of coloring is a whole lot cheaper. So I'll show you this method. But sometimes you need this with it, especially when you need to brush it on, like on a carving. Mix it with a stick. It's kind of like Bondo. And use the wood filler, the appropriate wood filler, catalyst. I already smoothed the edges of this cut, and this is a finished one. I'm just going to put some filler in there. And we'll let it harden and smooth it off like we did the Bondo. Okay, while that's hardening, let's go back to this. I don't remember if I sprayed that. Let me seal that off. These little cans cost about $14–15, but they last for years if you're doing this kind of touch-up. Okay, well, we're getting close in the color. I'm going to try to maybe approach it a little bit more. Okay. I'm worried that this is a little bit too red. Before you decide whether your color is right, you need to put the top coat on, and because that changes it a little bit. Another thing that affects the color is the lighting. I don't have good daylight lighting in here. It would be better to have a lot more incandescent because the colors change under different lighting. If it were real critical, I would probably try to do it in a room where the lighting was the same as the customer had, because that's what she's going to see or he's going to see. It depends on whether the chair is going to be in front of a window or, it's mostly incandescent lighting in the house. This is probably no point in going further with it. I would add, unless you guys want me to, but I would add a little more brown because that's a little bit too red. I would probably go to a brown burn number that I've got, where you just creep up on it, and when you're all done, you just put the last coat of finish on it. That's almost hard enough. I usually let the Minwax get a little harder, but I think I can work with it the way it is. After I smooth it, I would take the 320 paper and just lightly sand it to be sure it's flat. If it's not dead flat, it's going to show up. Let's see how this Minwax filler stick is going. If I shear it off and get lucky, I won't pull it out. You can see when you do this on a finished surface, it's not going to stick to the finish. So that's pretty smooth. I would sand that, and then I would end up with something like this. This Minwax wood filler has become my favorite way of doing this. It's so simple. There you've got a fill that you need it's flat, and I need to color it. These are Mohawk Blendal sticks. They're really oil-based crayons, and they're fantastic. You just color them and wipe it with your finger until you get the right color. So I'm going to I don't even seal it. I just put a little color on there. These come in packs like this. And one pack has lasted me for a lot of years.
Do you have to worry about them drying out?
No, they don't dry out. You need to seal them. I just rub my finger over them, and I'm using raw umber, burnt sienna, and whatever this is, ginger brown. Just add color and blend it until you creep up on the right color. Yeah, you can do this on Bondo. And you can You don't have to make it solid either. You can start streaking it to make it look like streaks in the grain. When you get close, seal it. You notice there's a little light spot there. That's where I didn't fill it properly. If you end up with a little area that's not filled, you can use these Konig fill sticks. These are a soft wax, and you just rub them into it, and then they rub into the depression, and then I use a piece of craft paper, paper sack to wipe it off. This is a fine abrasive. You can just wipe it off. That's still drying. Don't touch it before it's dry. Okay, this is almost dry. I would add a little bit of something to get close. Maybe a little dark streak. Just a little dark streak, because there's some darkness in this wood. This is raw umber. So that's the way you do it. That's very simple. You can see the one that I did before, and this one is going to be very close. This previous one, where there's still a nick in the depression, I would use one of these sticks to fill it. Just try to pick a color that you think wouldn't show up too much. Just rub it in there. And then just take some paper and the final way I wanted to show you to fill with color is to use these Konig hard wax sticks. They melt. You can it's like an old shellac stick, but then it's a wax. You melt it in the depression. What I did earlier was to melt some right onto the surface of this to see if it matched before I started adding it to the depression, the thing I cut out. This is a battery-operated hot point that will melt the wax. I have one that's electric, and I have another one that's butane, a butane torch. So there are a couple of sticks of color of wax. I kind of mix them together because the mix comes out about the right color. Just dribble it in the hole. Just overfill the hole. Once this hardens, this is a scraper that you can rub off the surface until it's flush. This was all made by it's called Aaron's Hard Fill Kit. And I just bought this at a demonstration workshop one day. Konig also sells a product that used to scrape off the surface. You can put a piece of metal on here if you want that heavy metal, just as a heat sink to cool it down quickly. Rub over it until it rubs off onto these ridges. Konig has a website that shows you how to use all of their products, and very good website. I'm gonna burnish the surface, yeah. Because I left a few marks on it when I was doing it. It needs to be touched up. Now that's going to show too much, so I would have to go back and add a little bit of the dark. I would add a little bit more of this one, mix it up again, then smooth it off again until I get it right. There's also some streaks. You can see the streaks go through here. So I probably need to add some dark streaks. I'll just pick something not too dark. That might do it. I think I'll just a little bit more dark color. Kind of mix it up a little bit. You don't want a totally uniform color because wood's not uniformly colored, and it'll show up if it's too uniform. That's why this one needs a little more work. Let me cool that down. I would still play with it a little bit more, make a few more brown streaks in there. Actually, probably what I would do would be use some of the Blendal sticks to put a little streaking in there. The easiest one, the cheapest one probably is the Minwax filler and the Blendal sticks. But I love the Konig products. I wouldn't do without them. All the Konig products come out of New York. They're made in Germany, and you get them online in New York. And look for their videos because they show you how to do all the repairs. I don't do the Bondo and Pigment too often because it's more difficult unless you've got a really great color sense. So those are three methods of filling and coloring. All you got to do is practice. Please contact me. I'd be happy to help you out any way to repair any furniture around the house. You got to repair nail holes in your hardwood floors or whatever. Just you can see my email address at the beginning, and beginning of the program, and you can see it on the website. Also, go back and look at the glues. I have tested glues, and they're all on the website. The one glue I would not recommend anymore is Gorilla Polyurethane glue. It'll do a great job, but I've seen some failures after about 6 months to a year. It loses its adhesion to the wood and just fails. So that's the only one I don't use. Most of the time I use Titebond, and sometimes I just mix Titebond with wood powder as a filler. And that works great too. I buy wood powder, real fine wood powder. It's cheap, and it mixes with the glue, and it does not degrade the strength at all. So check out the glues on the website. And don't hesitate to call me, bring a piece of furniture over, and we'll work on it.
Yeah, it is a little loose.
Yeah,
Are these dining room or side chairs?
they're dining room chairs. Oh, that's breaking apart.
Uh-oh.
I'll have to do extra repairs there.
You have to take it apart to do it.
Oh yeah, yeah. You have to get rid of the old glue, and I use a Dremel tool usually to grind away the old glue.
If it's hide glue, can you heat it?
I wouldn't reuse it, it's so old.
No, I don't mean to reuse it, but to take it apart.
I guess you could, but it's real brittle when you try to get rid of it. You can chip it out with a ice pick.
Yeah.
So I've got to take a chisel and make a right angle, smooth surface in there, and then get a piece of mahogany, cut it short, and glue it in.
Type on 3.
Yeah, type on 3, and then carve it so that it matches the other claw. There'll be a little slop in it, so I'll mix wood powder with it, wood flour, and I'll just mix that with the glue. And it's just, you'll see from my measurement of the strength, it's exactly as strong with or without the wood flour. So that was good news when I tested that.
Is that powdered wood you were talking about?
Yeah, it's wood flour. It's real fine wood dust. I'm replacing wood parts that were rotten and then repaint it. And he's made a swing holder in his backyard, an A-frame swing holder, so he can have it again.
Is that treated lumber?
This is treated. I don't know if that's treated or not.
Probably not.
I doubt it. No.